Hello children, once again welcome you all to my English class. Children, in our last class we had completed 2 paragraphs from Unit 3 of the prose A Hero, isn't it? So today we will go for the remaining part of Unit 3 of the same prose. But before that, let me remind you the recap of our last class. Swami had to sleep in the dark office room with the door open. Father warned him not to go to his granny's side at night. Swami felt cut off from humanity. Swami thought to the village boy as a monster or a giant. When Swami slept in the dark of his room of his father, he remembered many stories of devils and ghosts that he had heard earlier. He also remembered about the incidents of his close friend Mani, Munishami's father, and also his close friend of 4th class who had been carried off by a ghost to Siam or Nepal. Swami fainted with fear and came to his sense after a while. All kinds of noises reached his ears due to stillness. He covered himself with the blanket as an armor. This is all about the recap of our previous class. Now children, as I already told you, today we will go for the remaining part of Unit 3 of the prose A Hero. So first of all, let us have a model reading of the text. All of you listen me carefully while I am reading the text. Swami hurriedly got up and spread his bed under the bench and crouched there. It seemed to be a much safer place. He set his eyes tight and encased himself in his blanket once again, and unknown to himself fell asleep. And in sleep he saw terrible dreams. A tiger was chasing him. His feet stuck to the ground. He tried hard to escape, but his feet would not move. The tiger was at his back and he could hear its claws scratch the ground. Scratch, scratch, and then a light thud. Swami tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids would not open, and the frightening dream continued. It threatened to continue all his life. Swami groaned in despair. Using his utmost efforts, he opened his eyes. He put his hand out to feel his granny's presence at his side, as was his habit. But he only touched the wooden leg of the bench, and his lonely state came back to him. He sweated with fright, and now what was this rustling? He moved to the edge of the bench and stared in the darkness. Something was moving down. He lay gazing at it in horror. His end had come. He became desperate. He knew that the devil would presently pull him out and tear him to shreds, and so why should he wait? As it came nearer, he crawled out from under the bench and hugged it with all his might and used his teeth on it like a mortal weapon. Ayo, something has bitten me. There was an agonized cry which was followed by a heavy tumbling and falling amidst furniture. In a moment, father, cook and a servant came in carrying a light, and all 3 of them fell on the burglar, who lay amidst the furniture with a bleeding ankle. Now children, from all this paragraph you must have come across some difficult words, isn't it? So let us discuss the meanings of unfamiliar words. Encased, covered something completely. As you can see in the picture children, the boy has encased himself under the blanket. chase, run after somebody. Now all of you look at the picture. Here the tiger is chasing after the boy. Shreds, very small pieces. Thud, a sound that is made when a heavy object hits something else. Crouched, limbs drawn close to body in fear. As you can see the picture, children. Agonized, showed extreme pain. Horror, great fear. Desperate, disheartened. And Fallon attacked someone. As you can see the picture. Now children, this is all about our meanings of unfamiliar words. Now I am going to explain all these paragraphs line by line. So all of you listen me carefully. Swami hurriedly got up and spread his bed under the bench and crouched there. It seemed to be a much safer place. Here, what happened? Remembering the stories of devils and ghosts, Swami all on a sudden got up and then he spread his bed under the bench, as you can see in the picture. Then after he spread his bed under the bench, he slept by closing his limbs to his body. He thought that it was a safer place for him. He shut his eyes tight and encased himself in his blanket once again and, unknown to himself, fell asleep, and in sleep he saw terrible dreams. When he fell asleep unknowingly by covering the blanket and again by closing his eyes. Then he saw a dream. He saw terrible dreams. A tiger was chasing him. His feet stuck to the ground. What he saw? He saw that a tiger was running after him, but his feet was clanged to the ground or feet. Here stuck means clanged to the ground or field. He tried hard to escape, but his feet would not move. The tiger was at his back and he could hear its claws scratch the ground. Scratch, scratch, and then a light thud. Then Swami tried his level best to escape or to get away, but his feet would not move. Then he saw that the tiger was behind him and he heard the sound of its paws. That is the scratching sound of his paws. And he also heard a light thud. That is a light gote shabda. Slow re heitiva gote shabda se sunila. Swami tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids would not open. And then the frightening dream continued. It threatened to continue all his life. Swami groaned in despair. Then what happened, children? After he heard the light dash or thud, Swami tried his best to open his eyes, but his eyelids would not open. And then his frightening dream continued. He kept on seeing the frightening dream as it would continue throughout his life. So Swami cried in despair or disappointment, disheartened. Using his utmost efforts, he opened his eyes. He put his hand out to feel his granny's presence at his side, as was his habit. But he only touched the wooden leg of the bench. Then by using his efforts, Swami opened his eyes at last. When he opened his eyes, he stretched his hands to feel his grandmother's presence, as it was his habit, because it was his habit. But he did not touch the granny, rather he touched the wooden leg of the bench. And his lonely state came back to him. When he touched the wooden leg of the bench, his loneliness came back to him. He knew that he wasn't solitary or alone. He sweated with fright. And now, what was this rustling? Then with fright, sweat came out from his body. And then he exposed his ears towards the rustling sound. He exposed his ears towards the rustling sound. Okay, towards the rustling sound. He moved to the edge of the bench and stared in the darkness. Then what Swami did? You can see the picture, children. Here Swami, suppose the boy is the Swami. So here he came to the edge of the bench. He came to the edge of the bench and stared in the darkness, that is, gazed in the darkness. Something was moving down. He lay gazing at it in horror. Then what? He heard that something was coming down towards him. He lay gazing at it in horror, and still with the fright, he lay gazed at it. His end had come. Now he thought that he was going to die. He became desperate. He knew that the devil would presently pull him out and tear him to shreds, and so why should he wait? Then Swami thought that he was going to die. Then all of a sudden, what happened? He thought that the devil would come, pull him away by tearing him into shreds. Here shreds means pieces, by tearing him into pieces. That devil would come, tear him into pieces by dragging him out. Then he thought why he would wait. Okay. As it came nearer, he crawled out from under the bench and hugged it with all his might and used his teeth on it like a mortal weapon. As it approached towards Swami, so Swami came out from under the bench. He moved his body to come out from under the bench and then hold it tightly as strong as he could, and he used his teeth like a mortal weapon. Here, mortal weapon, that is a deadly weapon. He used his teeth like a deadly weapon. Ayo, something has bitten me. There was an agonized cry which was followed by a heavy tumbling and falling amidst furniture. Okay. Then what happened? When Swami used his teeth like a deadly weapon, then here a sound came. The sound was Ayo. What was the sound? Ayo. And it has been told by the burglar. Okay. Ayo, something has bitten me. There was an agonized cry. Swami heard a terrible cry. Agonized means terrible cry. Swami heard, which was followed, and where it was taken? In the middle of the furniture. And then there was a tumbling and falling in the middle of the furniture was going on between the burglar and Swami. In a moment, father, cook and a servant came in carrying a light. Having heard their cry, Swami's father, cook and a servant came there carrying a light. All three of them came there carrying a light. And all three of them fell on the burglar, who lay amidst the furniture with a bleeding ankle. And everyone attacked the burglar, who was in the middle of the furniture with the bleeding ankle. As you can see the picture, children. Suppose here is the burglar, and here is Swami's father, cook and servant. And here everyone attacked to the burglar. So children, here we come to the end of our explanation part. Now next what we will do? I will ask you questions. Are you all ready to answer me? Very good. Answer in a word or a phrase. Where did Swami see a terrible dream? Yes, very good. under the bench. In his father's office room. Okay. Next. Why did Swami groan in despair? Swami groaned in despair because he kept on seeing the terrible dreams. So, Swami groaned in despair. Next, why did Swami put his hand out? To feel his granny's presence. Who came to Swami carrying a light? Yes, Swami's father, a cook and a servant. Okay, his father, cook and a servant came there carrying a light. Okay. Now children, as usual, today also I have a quotation on a hero for you. A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. Okay, this is all for today's class, children. Thank you. Bye-bye.